like to call the regularly scheduled Board of Directors meeting for Tweeden Haven Airport to order for December 20th, 2023. First order of business is minutes of the November 15th, 2023 meeting. Are there any comments, questions, suggested changes, or clarifications? No. Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move that.
Moved and seconded. Do I have a second? Yep, got it.
Second.
Thank you. Let me try your minds. All those on Zoom?
Aye.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
That motion carries, I think unanimously. I'm going to declare it so. Item 2, Executive Director's Report. I only have one item that I want to cover with you, and this is something that I had an opportunity to talk to the Executive Committee with last week in our precursor to this meeting. The item relates to the potential securing of lobbying support for us in Hartford. Last year, there was a piece of legislation that got passed that it was a surprise to the Tweeden Haven Authority Board, and it had to do with fuel, the forgiveness of fuel taxes for a period of a couple of years, which quite honestly, I did not know about. I don't think John knew about. I think caught Tom unawares as well. So one of the things I was considering doing was looking to secure independent lobbying, an independent lobbying firm to make sure and monitor what's going on in Hartford and to alert us to anything that would be of interest to us or we should be aware of. It would have been a nominal contract just to monitor. And I started having some conversations with some firms that particularly as it relates to the CCM annual convention. There were more lobbyists there than there were CCM members. Robert, I apologize. I'm wearing the hat once in a while that you do. So I started to think about it more, and it dawned on me that maybe the conversation to have first would be to go with our partners, our business partners who have had lobbying support and lobbying entities working on their behalf up in Hartford, and that would be Avello and Avports. So rather than us engaging independently, I thought it might make sense to see whether or not we could work with our existing partners to have a seat at the table as it relates to legislative agenda and legislative tactics. I think that it gives us an opportunity to correct something that I didn't realize we were losing, which was when Tom came on board and replaced Sean Scanlon. We effectively lost the Tweeden Haven Airport's lobbyists as a state rep and as wired as he was into the administration and House and Senate leadership. We had up until that time we had eyes, ears, and someone walking around looking out for our best interests. So I had the opportunity to talk to Andrew King a week and a half ago. About us getting a seat at the table, and I am happy to report that Andrew thinks it's a good idea. He agrees that there was some oversight on all parts last year relative to bringing the authority to the table as it related to legislative initiatives and agenda. So I've been given, and we've been given, the commitment that we will have a seat at the table. We'll be part of the strategy and tactical sessions, and I'm comfortable at this point moving forward without securing a separate lobbying representation. Not the least of which is there is somebody in this room who has one of the badges that allows you to hang outside the rail up in Hartford at the legislature. Because Robert is a registered lobbyist as well. And so we have our own set of eyes and ears up there as well. So thankfully I think we can avoid some costs associated with our own firm and take advantage of the response from our partner and also from
And Rich as well.
And Rich as well, that's right. That's right. I forgot Rich's, he's got one of those badges. Comments or questions?
Yeah, Matt, I do. I think it's a great idea. I don't think it's a good idea to have the same lobbyists as Avello and Apports. They have a vested interest, they have their own agenda, and I'm sure they're paying the lobbyist firm a lot more than we would ever pay them. I think we need an independent lobbyist to look out for our interests and our interest only. And I don't agree with hiring the lobbying firm that is dealing with Apports and Avello. I just see I just see that we would be run over and Avello and Apports would drive the train. The lobbyists for them would drive the train. And I think we need an independent voice, eyes and ears as a lobbyist. I think it's a good idea, but not the same one.
Thanks, Ken. Just a point of clarification, we are not actually going to be hiring the same or paying that same lobbyist. This is partners sitting around the table talking about strategies that they're looking to implement through their team. Again, the lobbyist would not be reporting directly to us. Your points, well, I completely understand your point and just wanted to make that clarification. Anyone else?
I just think that I actually agree with your recommendation. I think that we are in a position right now where we can move with Robert and others that are on this board, looking out for us. And when necessary and if needed, then we can move forward to hiring. At this point, I think we're good.
Any other comments?
I also feel the same way. I think there's a real need for this and justified. I guess the question I have is this service that we would be utilizing with someone that's on the board, is that part-time, full-time, and is there a cost related to it?
I think the term pro bono is most appropriate. Yeah, they get paid the same as the interim executive director did for 9 months, but.
Do we need to put that in writing?
I don't think that either Robert or Rich would be interested in such an arrangement. And as part of their day job, they're plugged in Hartford. By the way, for those of you who aren't familiar with how lobbying works up there, they spend most of their time in the cafeteria and talking to each other.
I agree with your approach.
and
I think it
other
makes a lot of sense.
Right. So I don't know, Rich, you want to make a comment? I don't want to represent you if I'm inaccurate.
No, only to say that I think there are enough of us with interests and associated with the board involved in following what's happening in Hartford, and we can certainly work together to keep other fellow board members apprised. And where the authority wants to take a position, we can help to make that happen.
Great. Thanks, Rich. Any others at this point? Michael have his hand up? Oh, I'm sorry. Who else? Someone else have their hand up? No, we're good.
I was just going to agree. I was just going to agree with everybody. It may be perceived as a conflict of interest if you use Avello or Avports, saying that we're supposed to be an independent body. So that's what my thoughts.
Thank you, Mark.
Hey, Matt,
Yes.
I have a question. I don't know if you can answer it, Tom, maybe. Where's the, and I don't know if it's off point, but where's the state? The state gave in the last 5 years, the state gave Aer Lingus $11.9 million. They gave Spirit $2 million, and they're floating around that they'll give money to a carrier that wants to go to London. Is there any chance of getting any of that money, or does it always go to Bradley?
I think we have to check the source. Where in the state did it come from?
Yeah. What was the source of the funding? Do you know, Dave?
I'm not sure, but it's always in the paper. And I know 1 year they paid Aer Lingus a guarantee of $3.9 million. And the Current said the other day that since they've been here, the state's paid 11.9. They paid Spirit about $2 million to go to Jamaica. That lasted about 3 months. And they're floating around. They want direct service to London from Hartford. And they gave Breeze $1 million too to launch up there.
I looked into that.
Okay.
I thought it was CIA, but I'll double check that too.
Okay. No, just curious. It'd be nice to get some money, air service development money down there.
Well, if it's air service development money that's coming directly from the state, that's a different source or pot than we normally look from. We'll look to get.
I hope we could tap into it.
Yeah. We can have those conversations with leadership.
Okay.
I will take that myself.
Okay, great.
Not that I will take it. Actually. That's it for the chairman's report, unless anybody has any other comments or questions for me. Hearing none, let's move on to the chairman. No, I jumped the gun, right? I went out of order. Let's do the executive director report. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. From our last meeting, a couple of items. Melina amended the October board minutes to incorporate Mr. Scussel's comments and corrections. Mr. Tagliari did provide me with Mr. Vargas's contact information at the Water Pollution Control Authority. They were very helpful, provided us a tour on Monday. The room is about the same size as this, same kind of capacity in terms of number of seats. They are ADA accessible. Looks like they have a lot of parking. It's a very nice building. We are waiting to hear back though on 3 items. One is the availability during our time frame, as well as if we go beyond, let's say, normal business hours, beyond 5 or 6 o'clock. And also to see if they either have extra chairs or we could bring some in, because we would need some around the room for the public. So we're still investigating that, but that looks like a significant possibility. If we'd like to have meetings there, as long as availability. The other item from last month's meeting is the CIP clarification on project descriptions has been posted to the website and was sent to our board. Next on my list, I have an EA update. Board has been sent. You probably saw the article in the paper about the HHS comments on our environmental assessment. And we continue to hear from the FAA that the decision is imminent. So we're waiting. FAQs, we began populating the FAQ section on our website. It can be found at flytweet.com under About the Airport in a section labeled TNHAA FAQs. And we'll be adding to that as needed. Environmental Stewardship Committee meeting. We had a meeting yesterday, provided them with a presentation outlining an overview of the committee, its purpose and objectives. We also presented top 5 environmental practices the committee has selected and the status of achieving those. We also discussed the method that will be used to further prioritize future practices that are under consideration, as well as a draft overall environmental policy. And the committee also discussed reviewing priorities and the policy to make air quality a higher priority. And the details for that meeting will be available on the website. I just want to mention an item here, rain events. In the past 2 weekends, we were forecasted to have severe weather along with possible flooding. And I'll let Jeremy cover the details in his report, but I just wanted to go on the record as saying that I think Avports did an exemplary job of managing the tide gates, the communicating with the stakeholders, and including redistributing water from flooded areas to other parts of the drainage system. Just a quick comment on some social media things. We greatly appreciate folks' robust commentary on various social media platforms, but I'll leave it at that. Statistics, BTS employments are in the packet for the end of September. The employments went from 32,065 September last year to 36,183 this year. So we're up 13% month over month there. For the 12-month period, HVN employing 478,207 passengers, which is an 11% increase. Another note I'd like to make on the agenda today is resolution number 600. And I would ask the board's indulgence to add a minor qualification field to that. I'd like to add the language in the 6th whereas to say subject to satisfactory completion of paperwork with respect to the reduction in the scope of service. This has to deal with the reduction in the cost of the project, but we don't want to execute it until such time as we have the appropriate paperwork from the homeowner who has opted out of the sound insulation program. So if you don't mind, when you vote on that, if we could.
Resolution 600.
600, yes. And also on your agenda and in your packet is the listing of the 2024 meeting schedule. And with that, I'll just end and wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Questions for Tom?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course, me. Yes, when we had the environmental committee meeting and Tom was given an update on the EA, I'm concerned that it is delay after delay after delay. It's been a very lengthy process. And in my view, every federal, from my experience, not in my view, from my experience, every federal agency, whether it be Social Security, FAA, veterans, have X amount of days to make a decision and make that decision known. I don't know what the time frame is for the FAA, but they do have a time period in which they need to respond. So I'm concerned that it's just delay after delay after delay. And what the reason may be, I don't know. I'm not an expert. But I made a suggestion yesterday that we didn't need to light a fire under that. And we have two U.S. senators and a congressional rep whose job is, from my experience of X amount of years, you've heard it a million times, to contact them, who then in turn FAA and ask for a status report. They have to answer the congressional representative. It's their obligation, and it's FAA's obligation to answer a congressional inquiry. Not asking the members of Congress to take a position. Obviously not, and I don't think they would. But I think it's appropriate for this board to write a joint letter to Senator Murphy, Blumenthal, and Congresswoman DeLauro as our representatives in the state of Connecticut in Washington, D.C., to say we'd like an update and we'd like an expedited review. And from my years of experience, it doesn't hurt, and more than likely you get an answer.
Ken, thank you for that. Thank you, Ken. As I said yesterday, I agree with that recommendation. I just want the group to know that the deadline was October 31st, and that by the regulation, a senior level official in the agency, meaning the FAA, has the ability to extend it. They extended it 2 months to December 30th. And there's a list of reasons why they can extend it. We've done some other research, but it's all about, continuing delay as well. But I do agree with your recommendation, and if the board votes, we'll definitely put that together.
Well, I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right.
Hey, Tom, sorry,
Discussion purposes on the motion. Mark?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I wanted to ask Tom for clarification. They extended to December 30th. Is that what you said?
December 31st, the end of the year.
And they actually provided some justification for that extension?
Yes, they indicated that it would, I forget the exact language, but it would improve the chances if a lawsuit were to be, if there was an appeal to be filed after the decision.
I was just wondering whether or not we can get a copy of that.
Yeah, I can send that.
Whatever you found.
Right.
Tom, can I ask a question also?
Certainly.
So what you said, a senior level person could request an extension, and they did it for 2 months to the 31st. Does someone have the ability to do that again, or do they have to come to the table at this time?
It's unclear, and in fact, in one of the draft comments when they are revising the regulation, it actually, somebody had put in that they would have to get our concurrence. And now the new regulation simply says that they have to advise us, but it's not clear on how many extensions they can do. However, this is from FAA citing this, there is a section called delay, and on reasons on things why they cannot delay it. So I will send that around. I'll send around the FAA's email that has those citations too.
I think based on that explanation, that adds further support sending that letter to our congressional delegation.
I agree.
Ken, it might not surprise you. We're playing out of the same hymnal. I have had conversations with Rosa DeLaura's office and staff. Rosa herself about the delay. But even beyond that, the letter that I think most people are familiar with that was written by the Deputy Secretary or Undersecretary of DHHS, who had expressed concerns on the environmental impact. There is some consensus of thought that the FAA did not rush to judgment on this EA, and that this is evidence of even more judicious review of the EA application itself, and also quite plainly, it's a courtesy extended from one federal agency to the other to go back and look at something that was raised by another agency. That would be, and that's the feedback that I've gotten from Rose's staff.
Well, I think it just puts the FAA on notice that somebody higher than our authority is asking, and they have an obligation as a federal agency to answer members of Congress.
Yeah. We'll be happy to put something formal in writing to.
I'm happy to write it. I wrote them for 25 years. I mean, I know the language,
I'll
but
tell you
I'm
what,
happy to do it and
if you don't
share it
mind,
with Tom.
if you don't mind my plagiarizing and putting my signature under it, I'd be happy. Thanks, Ken.
You're welcome. But we still have a motion on the table.
Yes, we do. Anybody else? Any other comments? Let me try your minds. All those on Zoom? Aye.
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 Those in the room? Aye. Anyone against? Anyone abstaining? All right. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Anything else, Tom, or is
No,
that
that's,
it?
that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, if I can stay on the agenda here, the Finance Committee report, the October 2023 financials. Tom, are you taking those?
Yes, Serena, is that okay? Take it?
That is absolutely right. We have reviewed, and Tom is going to give you a brief summary of what we have for the month.
Thank you. So in the airfield account, the revenues for October, excluding the LETC subsidy of 201,655, in total came to about 6,837 over budget. The actual subsidy was lower than budget by about 105,352 for the month. Year-to-date revenues, excluding the 716,829 subsidy, were 173,371 against the budget of 129,883, or $43,487 to the good. Expenses for October, the actual expenses came in under budget by 98,514. Year-to-date expenses are below budget by 467,715. On the admin account, revenues for October were slightly above budget by about $852, with the revenue share estimated at $5,000. Year-to-date revenues are better than budget by about $6,558. Expenses, the admin expenses for the month were $12,640 below budget. Year-to-date, they're $52,242 below budget. The actual net results for the admin fund for October is a slight positive of $1,262. On the balance sheet, the fund balance at the end of this period is $231,291. The overall liabilities and fund balances are $1,022,970. And there was a transfer made into the capital fund, I'm sorry, to the general fund from the capital fund of $33,771.
Great, thank you, Tom. Questions on the financial? All right, hearing none, let's move on to item 5, airport manager's report on the airfield side first. Jeremy.
Good evening. Thank you. Couple items for the management side and side of the house. We've completed our annual wildlife hazard management report for the year. We do that in coordination with USDA, who's our partner. We have an agreement with them. They perform all of our wildlife depredation and help us work on tactics to maintain a safe airfield with birds and mammals. So we've updated that plan. And that plan will be reviewed annually by the FAA. That will be a part of our upcoming inspection, most likely in the spring. We have had some outages with our weather equipment on the airfield, our ASOS system, which takes surface weather data and transmits that to airport users, pilots, both air carrier, private alike. We've been having some sporadic outages with that system. So we've worked very closely with Midwest, who is the contract tower for our tower with the FAA. And we were in the process of finalizing the agreement.
Steven, tell them don't vacuum. I'm on a Zoom meeting right now. I can't hear. Tell them to stop vacuuming. Yeah.
We are close to an agreement with Midwest to provide after-hour services, where they would be able to supplement weather information so that Avail can continue to operate. If the system goes down and it's missing a critical piece of weather data, there was an incident where Avail could not operate, so we've been able to eliminate those instances in the future, and we appreciate their partnership with that. So we're very close there. And then we started.
Jeremy?
Yeah.
Excuse me. What do we know what the outages are caused by, or are we working on trying to fix that?
Yeah, so it's actually the National Weather Service's equipment. They are stationed in Long Island, and there is typically a little bit of a delay for them to respond. So that has been a concern that we have raised to them. I believe my understanding is that most of the issues are with the cabling, and not so much with the instrumentation. So we, together with Avelo, are putting together and the authority, trying to work on a meeting with the National Weather Service for them to conduct an assessment and let us know, where they see where those weaknesses may be and what could we do to remedy the system for, to make those improvements. So it's not so much the issues that to date have been altimeter, which provides you with information that the Avail can get from other stations in the vicinity of this airport. So I think they've used MacArthur. They may be able to use a few other airports. But certain things like temperature, dew point, those types of things do need to come from New Haven. So I'll report back to you next meeting as to our findings. If we're able to get a meeting with the holidays coming up, it might be difficult to have a report back by next meeting, but that's definitely on our priority list.
So Jeremy, you said Midwestern is the backup?
Midwest
Midwest.
ATC.
So and how quickly does the system transfer?
So they have redundancy up in the tower. So they're all certified weather observers. So when the system goes down, they're able to take the redundant information they have in the tower and relay that verbally to pilots or aircraft that are operating at the airport.
So it's immediate.
Yes, yeah, so
it doesn't impact the
No.
ability to navigate.
No, so they're basically, so they have very strict union contracts with their tower operators. And so what we've done is we've entered into an agreement that would allow them to stay after hours. So 10 o'clock, they typically clock out. Now we have a procedure in place where we get notified the system's down. We make a formal request. It's a little bit of a process, but make the request to Midwest. Midwest has to get approval from FAA. And then once that process is completed in a matter of an hour's time, the process is they would stay, and then we, the airport, reimburse them for that. Okay. Last item I had for the air side is West Ramp. We're starting to do some just preliminary preparation for resurfacing of the ramp here. So we're doing some preliminary work on that. So that is in process. And that's part of our ACIP, approved ACIP with the FAA. That's on that schedule. And if it's, no questions on
Any other
airfield?
questions from Jeremy on the airfield side? Hearing none?
Okay, land side,
Land side.
as Tom mentioned, we did have a few flooding events. One was on, well, I should say, significant rain events that we were anticipating some flooding. It was December 10th and September 17th, and Tom, we appreciate your vote of confidence with the Apports team. You know, we have a very skilled operations team that has really put a lot of time and effort into understanding how the tide gates work, and you know the ebbs and flows of the tides. Been working a lot with the city of New Haven, the Office of Emergency Management. I would like to publicly give our appreciation to them for their support. They did help us with some issues we had in our Lot C parking lot on the 10th, but they were very responsive and supportive there. The floodgates did perform as intended on the 10th. We did get water that approached the entrances of the terminal. We did not get any water inside the terminal, thankfully. The 17th was forecasted to be an even more impactful event. However, the cell moved a little bit to the north, and we did not get the full amount of rain we had anticipated. So we're in a good rhythm with that, how that system works, how we get it installed. And so we're in a good position there moving forward. And obviously we're in snow mode. So we're ready to go there. We did upgrade our fire panel in the terminal buildings here at the airport. So significant upgrades there with the control panel, software, and the monitoring company that we use. So there's better performance there. We performed a cyber tabletop. Apports performed that at our corporate level with all of our locations. So we take cybersecurity very seriously. Yeah, we've been helping Tom out a little bit. But we've been performing some tabletop exercises to ensure that our processes are solid, and we're able to recognize when there's some vulnerabilities if and when they do occur, and they do occur. But we are able to stay ahead of them. But as you guys know, that it's very common to get phishing attacks, and it's very we do a lot of training with our staff to recognize those attempts so that we can keep our internal systems secure. And then last item I'll mention, and then I'm going to just show a very brief PowerPoint with just some highlights from 2023. But we did some paving out here. If you guys look outside, we just did some repaving on the baggage arrivals area. Very overdue project, but it's been a great improvement, especially for one of our employees who uses this room as their office, but it's a lot quieter operation outside now. And then I mentioned last meeting, we had the Boy Scouts event. Actually, I hit it on in this presentation, but we had on the December 5th, we had over 45 students for our Explorer program, another good outreach opportunity for us here in coordination with Avelo. It was Avelo's program, and we're there to support and supplement that, but we're happy to be a part of that. So Felipe, if you can just pull up the presentation just quickly, just to end on end the year on a high note, just to kind of share with you some of the highlights that we did jointly together with all of our partners here. This is not necessarily Apports, it's our airport community working together. And so we'll just go to the first slide.
Everybody see that on Zoom? No share screen.
Yeah.
I'll let you go. There we go. So, some of you may have, heard we had a partnership with Connecticut Food Share for, over the holidays. And that was, we did it's basically a match. So we provided the opportunity for customers to, contribute to that effort. And then there's also a match coming, or a significant, donations coming from the airport that are over the next 3 years that'll help support food shelters here in East Haven and New Haven. So we're really happy about that partnership. Next slide. This is the Special Olympics event that we had. I think there was close to 15 teams. Each team had about 20 members. They raised over $25,000 for Special Olympics, and the airport had a team with all of our, that had various members from our tenants here, as well as Outports, the Authority, the Tower, FAA, all participated. Velo had their own team. But
Jeremy, how far did you pull the plane?
What was it, Felipe?
There was a set distance, is really about time.
Yeah,
So it's-
I want to guess it was probably 20 feet, something like that. Unfortunately, yeah, we didn't come in first. There was a CrossFit team that blew everyone else out of the water. But it was a lot of energy at that event. It was a fun time. It was the first one that I've done. So that'll be, I'm sure, the first of many to come. And if anyone wants to participate next year, we'll be sure to extend the invite. Next slide. We did an airport cleanup day. We went around, the entire facility, including the fence lines, and did what we could to pick up. We found there's tires and, just a lot of weird things you find out there. But another community building event, we got out there and, just spent some time getting to know each other, but also doing some positive outreach and just community building here. It's, just good to, for everyone to get familiar with, this, a lot of people don't get out as much and get to explore the airport a little bit. So that was a nice event. Felipe, next slide. We did attend the New Haven Hispanic Firefighters Association Scholarship Banquet. And that was, we sent a few of our staff there along with representatives from our corporate office, as well as Avelo had some participation in that event. Next slide. This was one of the career days. You can kind of see the students really get to do some hands-on work. They get to go inside the airplane. They get to dress up in some ARF gear, some firefighters gear. They get to sit in the cockpit of the fire truck and the airplane and see the snow equipment up close and personal. So that's we get a lot of positive feedback from that, and we're hopefully that'll we'll continue that into the coming years. Next, we celebrated Avelo's 1 millionth customer. Next, we partnered with New Haven Workforce Alliance and held, I think it was our second or third career fair we've held with them. We got a lot of participation from our tenants. Continue. This was our disaster exercise. We had over 300 participants. A lot of participation from our mutual aid partners in East Haven and New Haven and various others throughout the region and community. Next. And this was the first flight to San Juan. We had the governor there, a lot of community representation. It was a nice event. That was early. It was 6:30. Next. And that's it. So just a little snapshot of some of the positive things that are happening here at the airport, and appreciate your support, and we'll look forward to a successful 2024.
Jeremy, thanks for highlighting those events. It's good community outreach, good strong partnership with the community. So I anticipate it will continue. So
Absolutely.
Matt, can I just make a
Certainly.
suggestion here?
Yep.
Thank you, Jeremy. For those in the public that are listening, or anybody knows anyone traveling over the next couple of weeks, just remind them, check the website for availability of parking and get here early. gonna be very busy over the next probably 10 days or so.
Yeah, in fact, I'll just highlight on that, Tom, if you don't mind. So December 22nd and 26th will be the peak travel periods here at the airport. And just know that our parking reservations are sold out for the 25th to the 27th. And, Avalo, together with the airport, we have an aggressive communications with our customers to keep them apprised of, changes in parking availability, schedules and so on. So.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any questions for Jeremy? So, on that?
You reminded me.
Okay, hearing none, let's move on to item 7, reports and action items. I would ask the board's indulgence to waive the complete reading and just read the substantive parts, which are usually the last whereas or two, and then the resolve section. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Comments or questions? Let me try your minds. All in favor of those on Zoom? Aye. Those in the room? That motion carries. Thank you. Resolution 600. Who wants to cover that one first? Where's the resolution is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, we're just proposing adding in the 6th whereas the language states, subject to satisfactory completion of paperwork with respect of the reduction in the scope of work.
Excellent. Is there a motion to add same?
So moved.
Second? We see a second. Got it. Thanks, Joe. Any further comments or questions? As to the resolution itself, and I will read the last part. Therefore, be it resolved that Tweeden Haven Airport Authority approves change order number 03 to the construction contract with Nina Construction, Inc. for the RSIP contract period of March 31, 2024, no additional cost to the RSIP Phase 06 project. And we do think the NINA contract value to $843,360.84. The chairman, the secretary, or treasurer is authorized to execute agreement modifications on the project on behalf of the authority. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
And a second. We have a second. Any further comments or questions? Those in Zoom?
Aye.
Aye.
Those in this room?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Resolution 601, which is the approval of amendment number 4. It's a multi-year professional services agreement with Jones Payne Group incorporated for the residential sound insulation program. You want to just mention anything on that, Tom?
This is related to the other, and the first one was the construction aspect of this. This is the project oversight, project management.
Great. Okay, is there a motion to approve resolution 601?
I'll move that.
Moved here, second. Thank you, Serena. Any comments or questions? Let me try your minds. Those on Zoom.
Aye.
Aye.
Those in the room? Aye. That looks like that motion carries unanimously. Item 8, other business. I have one item I would like to bring up, and I know we just lost Jeremy, but it's been brought to my attention. I was aware that Avports was participating in the recent Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce economic breakfast event, and I understand ORHID may have made a presentation. What I think would be valuable would be for us to get a copy of that presentation. I'm assuming it was a slideshow. That's the way they typically are.
Yeah.
It's the first year I haven't been to that in a
Yeah.
while. I have to ask Nan Burke.
Much of what you just saw was.
Was that what was?
Yeah, that's what he shared.
That's what he shared?
Yeah.
Fine, then moot point. Anyone else with other business? Okay, we're gonna move on to public comment, but consistent with what Tom had mentioned earlier relative to comportment on social media. While we cannot control social media, we do understand, for those who are following some of the social media feeds related to tweet, that there is less than civil discourse taking place in some of those forums. So I would urge that for those who understand that civil discourse requires us to be civil to each other, And that, particularly in the public arena. I think we can all lament the fact that what has happened to, civil discourse across the country. I would prefer not to see it, as it relates to tweet. We can't control it, but we can control it as it relates to the comments made by folks. And we'll reiterate what we read into the record and approved a couple of months ago by this board about comportment. Comments to be addressed to the board and not to other commenters or other folks who are commenting on social media. So I think we can enforce that, and if anybody wants to help me enforce that, feel free.
Be happy to.
Very well stated, Matt.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. With that, let's open it up to public comment. Michael Giordano. Michael.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Hopefully you all have a very safe and joyous next few weeks.
Same to you.
I'd like to start out by sort of piggybacking on what Jeremy was talking about earlier, but a general accommodation to our leadership at Tweed. When I first started attending these meetings over 15 years ago, through a course of a number of years, I was always disappointed with the lack of aviation people present in the room, and it certainly has improved the last few years. Jeremy, has been here a few years and started the process, but with all due respect to Sean Sconlon, did a fantastic job, and Tom Rafter, the addition of him at Tweed, I must be one of his leaders in the fan club, because I wish I could be around him every day and just learn. I pride myself in being a mentor, but I feel like I could just sit around him and learn so much about the industry of stuff I didn't know before. So I thank you, Tom and Jeremy and Matt Hoey, for leading Tweed in the right direction. Great job with the storms that you mentioned earlier and keeping Tweed flood free. I'd like to mention about the schedule. I talked about it last meeting, or whatever meeting I talked about previously, about Avella's increase in flights in February and March and April with the 800s servicing Tweed quite a bit. But we're experiencing right now, just like was mentioned a few minutes ago, Tweed is on fire. Over the course of this 2+ week period, every day we have at least 10 arrivals and 10 departures, some days up to 14, which maxes our all-time high of the summer of 2022. This past summer, we only had 13 a day maximum on any given day. So we're doing something right. There may be some peaks and valleys with travel demand during the season. Obviously, September and October are light months. That's throughout the industry for that way for years. But we're certainly bouncing back during the holidays. And I can tell you, I looked at some airfares a few weeks ago for Florida flights, and they were pretty expensive. So that can only mean the flights are already booked up and there's not many seats left. So, the law of economics, supply and demand, that's what happens. The last thing I'd like to say is, I don't know if it's possible, but I know in those earlier meetings I attended a decade or longer before, quite often the US Airways and then American Airlines station manager would be present and sometimes contribute. I was wondering if there's any chance or talk that maybe the Avella manager could be at these meetings and present so we can see them and hear what they have to say. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Michael. You too. Next up, Felipe. Gabriela Campos, good evening.
Good evening. How are you guys?
Great, thank you. How about you?
Wonderful. I am well. Thank you. Happy holidays to all. As always, I have comments and questions, so I appreciate your time. I wanted to comment on the fact that you seem to be condoning some of the behavior of people bullying customers online when you're saying that you thank them for the robust activity online. And I just think that the customers of Avella and of Tweed deserve some clarification on that. Obviously, I have not been a supporter of expansion. However, right is right. And bullying people online is never okay, no matter which side you are on anything. I also want to question, bring up again, the fact that the financials are no longer broken out. It does continue the lack of trust from the community when the airport continues to not put where all the money is coming from. It's not itemized, and that creates a lot of lack of clarity and increases mistrust exponentially. Additionally, I want to address a couple of safety issues. You know, here at Tweed, we don't have the chemicals indoors. At Bradley, they're kept indoors and under temperature control. That is a huge concern, especially since it's so close to where people drive by to drop off their families and things like that. So it is incredibly concerning as chemicals are used. Also at Bradley, they recycle the de-icer, and it doesn't go into the waterways. Here it goes into Long Island Sound. It only gets diluted. There is nothing to treat the PFAS, sorry. That feels like such a tongue twister sometimes. But the PFAS go into Long Island Sound, which affect Madison, Guilford, Clinton, Branford, as well as New Haven and East Haven, which in those areas are areas of environmental concern. So I would like for that to be looked into. I'd also like for you all to consider that the flooding affects the personal property of the people currently using the airport. To my understanding, customers are not advised of what's happening. And I think that that's a safety issue for them, and they need to know if their cars have been underwater. So that is something that I think should be addressed if the airport plans to continue in having such high levels of usage. Additionally, I want to bring to your attention, if you haven't seen it yet, Admiral Levine sent out a letter a few months ago that has come across my desk recently. It states that the draft GA does not fully assess how increased flights by larger commercial airplanes threaten the public health in an already heavily burdened neighborhood. In addition to asthma, ozone concentration, and the environmental health burdens, it does not fully account for the current and potential increased use of leaded fuel by small private aircraft, which put communities at higher risk of lead exposure. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services recently established an Office of Environmental Justice, which I oversee as Assistant Secretary of Health. They go on to state—
Gabrielle, please wrap it up. Your time has expired.
Sure, no problem. Essentially, there are a number of health and safety concerns that haven't been fully addressed. And I think that the Tweed board really owes it to itself to explore that more thoroughly and not count on AFPORT's lobbyists, which are the same lobbyists, that are the New Haven lobbyists.
Gabrielle.
That's it. That's the end of my comment. You don't need to speak over me. That was the end of my sentence. And your term is up, Hoey. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
You'll never learn.
Think about
Who have we got? We're not going to take a Mr. Anonymous. You have to state your name.
I will state
your location for the
my
record.
name. I will state my name on the record. I don't have to give you my name when I enter the room or when
That's fine. That's fine. Please state your name and your
my name is Patrick Rowland, and I live on Minor Road in East Haven. And my first question is for Chairman Hoey. I have a point of order under Robert's Rules of Order that I question your ability to remain the chairman beyond the statutory limit. And I'd like you to explain to the board and the public how your ability to remain beyond your stated term as statutorily specified by Connecticut General Statute has you be in there under 15120I. Your authority should not exceed beyond 8 years, and you're now beyond your 8 years. Could you please explain that?
Thank you for your question.
No, I have a couple.
Thank you for your question. We do not do question and answer at this session.
Yes,
Mr.
so that's
and you know that, and you know that.
Yeah, but I'm really glad that you don't want to respond to that. But pump water.
Mr. Rowland, you have corresponded with me in the past, privately. Why don't you take the opportunity to do that, and I'll be happy to have a conversation with you.
Great. Pumping water into the storm sewers and in the streets isn't really proper management of water. And the interesting thing about you're having problems with the weather cables, it's maybe because you're in the flood zone and you're underwater. The other piece that I'd like to mention is Gabrielle started with the Admiral's request for an FAA in the EIS. Query whether or not the board has some culpability in participating under that and understanding that you've got medical issues and other health concerns as to whether or not that leaps across, even though you have personal guarantees to protect your liability. The last thing I would like to also bring to the attention of the board, and I realize that you're not going to answer me, but under Connecticut section 22A-66A1, there's a requirement for notification when you apply pesticides on your property. You have 404 or 410 acres. You regularly and routinely apply pesticides. The requirement is the notice be at the boundary and the border along the fence at 150 feet increments. And there is a penalty and there are fines and stuff associated with that. And I find it incredulous that not only have you stopped using Roundup, but you're still using other chemicals that would fall under the term of pesticides, and you still continue to fail. I brought it to this board's attention. I brought it to Sean's attention, and that you still have failed to continue to notice the community. So there are problems that are going on with this board. Not only has the FAA, an admiral no less, requested additional health information about the operation of the airport. You're well aware that Santa Clara, California has voted to close their airport as soon as they get over the burdensome handcuffs of the FAA guarantee. But they have voted to close their airport over lead poisoning in the community because their lead poisoning is higher than Flint, Michigan. For you guys to sit there and pretend that you're not responsible and you're not culpable and associated with that is laughable. And so I'm really worried about your pesticide application, because you continue to have the best, cleanest fence in all of the neighborhood. And it's not happening because somebody's out there with a pair of scissors and snipping it down. It's because you're applying pesticides and you're not following the Connecticut regulations. As I said, you can go look it up.
It's all, your time is expired.
66A-1. You guys have a beautiful holiday. Thanks so much for
Same to you, sir. Anybody else? Sandra Reiners.
Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Sandra.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Reiners. I live at 42 Stannard Avenue in Brantford. I'm still puzzled. I think I raised this last month about the process for the capital improvement plan. It was shown in last month's agenda. It has been revised and put up on the website. Does this move forward without a vote of approval by the board? That would be very, very puzzling. It does represent the current fiscal year's capital improvement program, and we're almost halfway through it. So is there to be a vote? Is it presumed to be approved by the board unless there is a vote of disapproval? I would hope you might address that at some future meeting or perhaps in a response. But after hearing a very limited discussion on this very significant capital improvement plan last month and hearing none at this month's meeting, I must admit I reflect on my own experience where I chaired the Ways and Means Committee of Brantford's RTM for several years, and that committee was responsible for analyzing detailed information for all capital projects of the town of Brantford, whether they were $1,000 projects or whether they were multi-million projects. They were for roads, land acquisition, buildings, etc. May I respectfully suggest that a similar format, a capital project committee, might similarly be of benefit to the authority in order to get into the details of these projects. This committee might be comprised of, for example, board members steeped in project finance and capital budgeting. It could be comprised of, let us say, 3 members, 2 from East Haven, where the future project's impact is greatest, and perhaps 1 from New Haven. As a casual observer of the authority, I could see a committee digging deeper into this 8-page project summary and the complex line item budget, which is filled with numbers and acronyms, and actually meeting with Avports, which proposes the budget, to inquire about several items that pop out as needing further explanation. For example, the sources of other revenues and the passenger assumptions for PFC revenues, the change of scope that began September 23rd and is financed by federal funds, the impact of noise and air pollution to adjoining properties of lowering the aircraft approach minimums. Lower flying planes would seem to indicate a difference in noise and air pollution to the adjacent communities.
Sandra, your time has expired. Please wrap up.
I shall do so. The most important one, I think, that does desire and require review is this taxiway A extension. It seems to be a very significant project that has been advanced from future years to the present. And it would seem to also require a further NEPA action, a further EA.
Great.
I
Thank you,
urge you to
Sandra.
keep-
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much for considering, and happy holiday to all.
Same to you. Anyone else? Rose Chatterton. Rose, are you there? Rose? Going once? Rose? Going twice? Might be having difficulty, Rose. You might want to try to modify it and raise your hand again at some point. Next up. Rose, I see your hand is up. Can you hear us? And we can't hear you if you're speaking. Rose, we can't hear you, so we're going to move on to another speaker.
Hi, good
Lorena,
afternoon. Thank you. Hi, you can hear me, right?
we've got you now, Lorena.
Thanks. Lorena Venegas, 73 George Street, and these minutes will be sent to the White House Environmental Justice Committee as well as Justice 40. Senator Christopher Murphy, who has promised East Haven shoreline funding for coastal resiliency. So I want to make sure that we outline as a community that we still need an environmental impact statement, that high-ranking federal officer did a great service for us in outlining those environmental justice issues that include the asthma incidence of hospitalizations, especially among the vulnerable populations, are increasing Latino and African-American populations in East Haven. I want to make sure that you know that the flooding that we saw this week is just unreasonable and intolerable. We can't have this anymore. So we had flooding along Cove, Hemingway, and Short Beach. And although Avports and everyone else has said, hey, we're going to use this road for $1.5 million emplanements, but we're not going to fix the road because it's a state road. It's not going to be part of any of our planning. It's not reasonable for the town. The stats that you showed on employments, I want to make sure to outline that employments have decreased from July to August and August to September. I am also concerned about the CIP and anyone who signed any non-disclosure agreements, because when you see Jeremy's slide, what is missing is that you're still on public lands. This is still a quasi-public state entity, and the community at large is not receiving the information to become informed. We also have endangered state and federal species that are recognized by multiple Connecticut and federal organizations. So to continue to ask our community to live with impacts and then have increasing impacts for more than a decade or more is unreasonable. Thank you.
Looks like we lost, Lynn Bonnet.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, yes, Lynn.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name's Lynn Bonnet, and I live in New Haven on the ridge that overlooks the north end of the airport. I'm I'm not a regular attendee of your meetings, and so I apologize for maybe not knowing something I should know, but who is on the Environmental Stewardship Council? And I'm a resident deeply affected by what you're doing, and I've never been contacted by anyone about what my priorities are. So what priorities did they set? And are they representing me? I don't think so. So I would appreciate if you could have a better outreach with the people that actually live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Next up. All right, Rose Chatterton, we're gonna give it another shot. Rose, can you
I
hear us?
put on a different headset. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. I'm sorry. I bought a new Bluetooth, and as expensive as it was, obviously it's crap. Kenneth or Linda or Tom, I know we discussed this at the meeting.
Rose, full name and address for the record, please.
Very sorry. I thought it was in the record already. Rose Chatterton, 39 Beecher Place, Morris Cove, New Haven. Okay.
Yes, yeah, please proceed.
Kenneth or Tom, did you by any chance, because I came late and I apologize to the meeting, did you bring up the idea about letters to Senators Murphy, Blumenthal, and Representative DeLauro to request that the FAA give us a better timeline of when they're going to finish the review of the EA so we know what's going on? I'm sorry if you already discussed it, but I didn't get here until the end.
Rose, I will make an exception here. Yes, that was part of the discussion in the meeting earlier, and we will be sending something out to.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you very much for your time, and everyone, happy holiday.
Same to you, Rose. Yeah. Next up. Tony Laurenti.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Tony Laurenti, 23 Briar Lane, Meriden, Connecticut, under the employ of a low-cost airline, not Avello. In reference to the enplanement numbers at Tweed, to parallel our good friends to the north, Bradley International, American Airlines in August, 58,492 enplanements, September, 56,299. Frontier, 14,252, 7,896. Again, this is August to September. Spirit, 11,045. The next month, 8,729. Don't be alarmed, Tweed New Haven Authority. This is a normal travel trend. People are still flying. It's just a slow period. Reference to de-icing fluid. As the one responsible for making the decision to take off snow, ice, winter weather, you should know that de-icing fluid is also cold, meant to be cold, or hot. It's heated in a truck. To make a statement, as one caller did, that's a flagrant, wanton disregard for public safety. It is frightening the public based on false information. De-icing fluid, I say again, can be applied to the aircraft cold or hot. It's heated in the truck. That's how it works. Additionally, if you're interested, for the time period September 3rd to December 3rd of this year, there were a total of 817 Avello flights destined for New Haven, a mere 5 diverted. Once again, this is not news. That is not something that needs to be in the morning newspaper. The EA comments, would we want it to go quick or would we want it to be thorough? The accusation has been an EA is not thorough enough. I think that it's taking the proper amount of time. Yes, we're all very excited and anticipate the results, but the reality is they're taking their time. They're being thorough, in my opinion. Of course, I'm not part of that process. I know nothing of it. And an EIS sure takes a lot longer than an EA. So maybe we should just wait for the final result. And regarding leaded fuel, unfortunately, there are thousands of general aviation airports across the country. Leaded fuel is used at these airports. Tweed is not the only culprit. It's a bit of an exaggeration. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Anyone else? Nobody else is looking to speak? Okay, with that, we have no further business to conduct. Just a note on our agenda. We're going to continue with the meetings on the scheduled day, the third Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Any calendars attached on the back. No other business. I entertain motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Let me try.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and whatever you
Christmas.
Whatever you celebrate.
Whatever you celebrate, God bless you.
Right, and that's a unanimous motion I'm declaring.
Happy New Year.
You
Take
too.
care, everybody.
Enjoy the cruise.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm working.
Yeah, okay. It's a working cruise.
David, are you hiring?
Yeah, we are actually. That's what I'm here for. Hey, have a nice New Year, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Enjoy it. Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.